Hello, this is Cabo, and in this video I'll be showing you how to build my no-run Enderman farm. This is based on the same design as Panda's tripwire farm, and it's very similar to all the farms that use pistons to push Endermen into a drop zone. But it's a little different in the fact that you don't have to run around the Enderman to level up. You can just stand where you are and swing your fists back and forth and hit them. I did this because I didn't really want to have an Enderman farm that required you to move, because that uses up extra food, and there's no point in that when all you need to do is stand there. So I built this instead. So let's hop into the end and show how it's done. Okay, once you're in the end, the first thing you want to do is go over to the edge of your end island. One edge of it doesn't really matter, and choose a direction. This is the direction I chose. Now, out in this direction you need to build a path that extends 128 blocks. The reason for that is because 128 blocks away from a mob, it will despawn instantly, and that means that 128 blocks out that way means no Enderman will be able to stay spawned on this island, which means more Endermen in the tower that we're going to build out there. Now I also dropped down, and I dropped down to height 3. The reason for this is because I want to take advantage of the vertical space above the tower. Basically, the fewer blocks high your tower is, the better spawn rates you'll get, because it won't have to choose from as wide of a range to pick blocks, and you have more chances of the blocks within your tower actually being picked. Also, building lower like this means that you can build more layers on your tower, and of course more layers means more spawns. So anyway, I built the path out 128 blocks, and as you can see, this is how it extends. Now, I made it too wide because my tower is even, but there's no other reason for that. So let's go on to the next part, which is building the base. Okay, now the base of the Enderman farm is where the player will stand, and it's where the Enderman will fall and take damage, and either die and drop pearls, so the player can just collect them, or go down to half a heart, and the player can punch once and get experience and pearls from the Enderman. So for the base of my Enderman farm, I'm going to build it out here. So what I want to do first is extend it a little bit so we have enough room for the player to stand out here. And then I want to go down. And I want to go down 2 blocks. This is so that I can put a piston which will control the height of the block where the Enderman hit. So the Enderman will hit on this block, but sometimes when the pistons are lowered, they'll hit down here. And that difference will either allow them to stay alive at half a heart, or it will kill them. Basically toggling between experience mode and just ender pearl mode. So anyway, what we need to do is build 2 down so that we can place the pistons, and then the pistons will go right on the edge there. And we'll do the same thing right there. And because we're actually going to have a 4 wide space for the Enderman to move around, we'll have 4 pistons. So it's going to be a 4 wide space despite the fact that the drop zone itself is only 2 wide. Now, you need to have some blocks to send power to these pistons, so we'll put blocks down here. And then now if we have a lever, you can see we can power the pistons and pop them up. And you can flip the lever again to send them down. So I want to put my lever right here, I think. So I'll do that. And come on, there we go. So now we can move these blocks up and down. But this is not really safe for the player. I mean, you could just stand here and hit them, but it's kind of precarious. We don't want the player falling off or anything. So let's build it up a little bit. So let's put some blocks here and here, and then that will give us a little bit more room, but it's still not quite enough. So let's build out this way and build 1 ring around these 4 blocks. And you can really build your platform however you like, but this is just a guideline for making it easy and keeping it safe. Alright, so that's really all we need, and to make it a little better, let's put fence posts around. That way, nobody's going to walk off the edge here. And so now the player can just stand here, jump down in here to collect pearls, or push that up and punch the Endermen that fall. But as it is now, when the Endermen fall, they can walk around freely. So we've got to stop that. We've got to put up some sort of block. And to do that, we're just going to use slabs. So we'll go up one here, and let's see, slabs are here. Oops, put a slab on top of that, and then just put these out around where the Enderman will fall. So the slabs at this height will also prevent Endermen from spawning in this area, as well as catching them and preventing them from moving around. So we'll have slabs all the way across here, just like this. And now we're safe from both spawning Endermen and Endermen walking about. And if I go ahead and spawn some Endermen to show you, you can see they are stuck in there and they cannot get out. And if we go over to the top, you can see they're sitting in there happily, no problem. And that's all there is to it. If these guys were at one hit, I could just swing my cursor back and forth and kill them all. And that's the base of the Enderman farm. The next part is the guide rails that control where they drop and prevent them from coming out to the side. Okay, the guide for the Enderman farm is pretty important. Basically, this is what keeps the Enderman inside the trap and prevents them from escaping while in transit down to the kill zone. So if you imagine me being an Enderman here, if I don't have any guide rings, I can easily maneuver outside of the kill zone and avoid taking the lethal damage or being trapped and hit for experience. So we'll put up guides around the kill zone in order to prevent that. Now, because they're dropping through a too wide space like this, our guide has to be able to fit this much. It can be whatever you want. It can be a complete enclosure like this, or it can be, spaced, as long as it prevents the Enderman from getting out, and as long as it has at least that much space for the Enderman to fit. Now, this guide has to go all the way up to the bottom of the spawning area, which is going to be 43 blocks above these blocks. So right now we're at height 3. 43 blocks above that would be up here at 46. So basically about this high up is where we'll need to build our guide. So I'll go ahead and do that and show you what that looks like. Okay, so here we are at height 46, and as you can see, our guide is done. Now, like I said, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, so it doesn't have to be a spiral double helix type thing like this. It could be just flat walls all the way down. But as long as it completely keeps the Enderman in, it will work just fine. So let's go ahead and spawn him and see if we can knock him in there. So he falls. See, he takes damage. Of course, because he's in this ring of slabs, he can't move. And if we punch him, he's at one hit. And that's how it works. So this is done, and now it's time to start building the main part of it, which is the actual compressing area and spawning areas. So let's get into the compressing areas. Alright, so here's the compression part of the Enderman farm. Well, it's half of it. The other half will be built over there, and I'll talk about how it's built in a moment. But first, let's talk about what this is actually doing. So, as you can see, there's tripwire here. It's connected to hooks up there, and when it's triggered, it will cause these pistons to extend. And basically, Endermen that fall down onto these tripwire will get pushed onto the next tripwire all the way down, and as you can see, they get shuffled down to the bottom pretty quickly. When the walls are up, they won't be spilling out to the sides, but basically, they go down pretty quickly, effortlessly, just slide down the funnel and get pushed into that too wide gap. And it works quite well. It's actually, if you've seen my Let's Play, it's a little bit different from what's in my Let's Play. It's the same general idea, but I've made this one slightly shorter, which means it not only works faster because they fall a less distance, but it also is safer because there's a smaller chance for them to fall and take damage. So as you can see here, it's 67, which is just 21 above our block right there at 46, compared to the one in my Let's Play, which is at 30 something blocks high, like 32 blocks high. But anyway, works quite well. So let's go talk about how it actually is built. Alright, before we get started, let's kick these guys off so they're not in our way. Come on, you. Alright. Basically, we just have to copy what's over here, and it's pretty simple. So we'll start by... Alright, so we're at the top of our guard here, and to start, on either side, basically just extend this platform out so that it's 6 by 5. So 6 in this direction, and then 5 in this direction. So just like that, 6 by 5. Then you can fill this in. The entire thing can be filled in. And then we can put in the pistons, which will be right here. And to power the pistons, we'll be running power to the back like this. Now, we can't simply connect tripwire to... get off of there. We can't simply connect tripwire to the redstone and run it like that. And the reason for this is because, well, if this is extended, this can happen. You see, the Enderman is stuck on top, but the thing is still extended. We don't want that. We want this to pulse on and off, so that in case this ever gets extended and there's an Enderman here, it will retract and push off. So what we have to do is set up a little clock. And there's a very simple one that we can do using a sticky piston and a couple of repeaters. So we'll start with a sticky piston. Well, actually, let's do it on this side so it's on the same side. Underneath the tripwire, a sticky piston and a block. Now, going into that sticky piston, we'll put a... Get off of here. We'll put a repeater here with 3 ticks. So when this is extended like that, power can be sent into that block. Now, coming off of that block, we'll have power there, and another repeater coming out, also at 3 ticks. Then we connect these, and this will be our clock. So when this is on, and we have power going through there, it can circulate through the block and through the repeaters. Now, in order to get power there, we need to use a torch. We're going to use a torch here. Now, in order to get this to actually become a clock and not just a constant signal, we have to turn off this torch. And we'll do that by turning it off at the same time that this tripwire is triggered, by taking the... Get off. Okay, by taking the power from the tripwire and sending it to the torch. So this is what it looks like. Let's jump up here. So as you can see, the clock is running. It's constantly extending and pushing out, and if you were an Enderman standing on top of there, you'd eventually get shoved down. Anyway, as you can see, when I get off the tripwire, it resets just fine. And this is designed so that none of the levels interfere with each other despite it being only too tall. Okay, so now to build the next level on top of this, we basically take the exact same shape and copy it. Just move it up. So we would put down another 5 by 6 right on top of this. 5 by 4, 5, 6. But instead of filling in the entire area like we did down there, we'll leave these 3 blocks open because we need the power to flow up to here. Now, our pistons will go on top of here and we'll power them from behind here, so it'll be like that. Basically just repeat this all the way up to the top. Now on each level you can see I have vines like this. The vines are there so that for 2 reasons. The first reason is when they get pushed off, it's just to make sure that it resets their fall in case they jump. So if they happen to be on the pistons here, they're falling and they're jumping at the same time, something weird happens and they end up being 4 blocks up, they could end up taking fall damage. So it's just to reset in case that happens, and also because they'll be pushed in from the sides and they'll come down, it will reset their fall damage every time at this height, or at the height before they reach the tripwire. So that's what that's for. And the result is that they'll get funneled down to the center without taking any damage, and then they'll take damage once they fall through those vines. So let me go ahead and build up the rest of this side, and then I'll close it up and show you what that looks like. Alright, so I've finished it. At least I finished putting in the walls. I also went through and covered everything with slabs. You'll want to do this to prevent Endermen from spawning in the places where we don't want them to spawn. So we'll want them spawning on these rows here, which is why I left those uncovered, but everything else should have slabs. Also, there's another thing I wanted to mention, which is these string I put across here. They block the vines from going out sideways because we don't want vines coming out on the sides. The reason for that is if we have vines, like say in the middle here, then if the Endermen get pushed in, they get slowed down. And since we want them to fall as quickly as possible, vines in the middle like that just hinder the process. So we keep all of that clear as much as possible. Alright, so now it's time to build the spawning strips. And these are extremely simple. They're just tripwire and pistons and triggered by the tripwire. There's nothing special, no clock. We don't need a clock for these because they all spawn at the same time. And because there's a cover over it, we don't have to worry about them falling from above onto the pistons. So they'll all get pushed off no matter what for these. Alright, so let's get started. So what we're going to have is tripwire attached to this end over here, and tripwire attached to this end over here. And this distance is 21 blocks. So we have power coming up here, which will send up 1. I guess I can leave that there. And then around the back. And it's the same on this side. The power will come up 1 and then come around the back. So if we run power all the way across, and then we can hook up the tripwire on one side and go ahead and string it up as well. Now, when the tripwire is triggered, you can see there's power running across this entire thing. And what this will do is simply power these pistons, which will all fire at the same time and push off all the Endermen that spawned. So they'll just get pushed off just like that and pushed into here. And it's extremely simple. We'll just build several layers of this, and that's really all there is to the main spawning area. But because there are 21 here and there are 21 on this side, it's 42 spawning spaces per level, so it's actually quite a bit of spawning room. Now, to build the next level, all we have to do is cover this row of pistons and then go up 1. And then we have our second layer. So we'll put our second layer on top here. And it's the exact same thing. So we have tripwire hooked up there, and tripwire hooked up here, and it will run power around the back, which will be behind a row of pistons. And this just repeats for as many high as you want to go. I recommend at least, I don't know, 2 or 3. 2 rows gives you a pretty high rate, but the more you go, of course, the more Endermen you'll get to spawn. So we'll go ahead and build up a few rows, and then we'll take a look at how quickly the Endermen are coming down. Alright, and it's done. This is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spawning layers. So right now it's on peaceful, so you can't see them spawning, but just wanted to show you the interior. So I added these blockers to prevent them from, these guards to prevent them from going on the outside. Also above the tripwire, make sure you add blocks so that they don't spawn in there, because they won't get pushed out because there are no pistons there. Other than that, that's all there is to it. I'll go ahead and turn this on and you can see it spawning. Oh, I only built it up 7 high up to 95 because this is conveniently the LC value, which tells us how high mobs will spawn, which means they won't spawn on top of here, so I don't even have to slab the top of this. But that's just for this particular instance. I mean, if you want to build it higher, feel free to. I just didn't feel like it because it was convenient there. But anyway, let's go ahead and switch it to hard again, and we should start to see them spawning right away. Yep, there goes one. Let's back off a bit. So they're coming out pretty quickly. As you can see, the entity count is growing. It's already up to 25, 30, 34, 35, so it's 40. So it's already halfway to maximum. It's only been a few seconds. So let's fly down here and take a look at what it actually looks like inside of the trap area. And it looks like it's packed full. These guys. Looks like one of them died, but most of them are still alive. Most of them are surviving just fine, and our entity count is already almost 70. So within a few seconds, we maxed out the entity count, it looks like. Pretty good, I think. So that's just 7 layers, and of course you can make it more to have it go faster if you really want to, but like I said, it probably isn't necessary how fast that filled up. Anyway, that's all there is for the Enderman farm. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, please let me know, and thanks for watching.